Right. So to dive in, I'd like to do this little opening activity. If you're on that class lab, you're going to be able, I'm going to start this activity, and I'm going to ask you to submit maybe a day or a description of how your day was. So let's just start with a little like reflection. How was your day? How was, if you want to just put like it was good, a smiley face perhaps in here. And my class lab code, I'll put it back up, it's classlab.com and 88472835. Oh, I love that, fun. That's always good, right? When you have a fun day. This is something that you can do with your students. This is called a Shout It Out activity. And this is from our Smart Lab that is part of our Smart Learning Suite on Smart Notebook. And you can create one of these, and you can do this with your students at the beginning of school, at the end of school, at a weekend. And I love this because it's a quick check-in. And if you've noticed here, I can see your name over here on the side as the teacher because it's my activity. However, you as the participant, you don't see any of the names. So it becomes anonymous. And we can go through and talk about, all these different days. I love this little emoji here, being productive. Sorry that your day could have been better. Like, I know, we're right. Like teachers, no day is perfect, right? Amazing day meeting new students. Love that. Meeting new students, that's always one of my favorite parts of being a teacher, is coming in and having new classes. I love to see like there's lots of good quality or good comments here. Nice weather. Let me say I'm jealous because I am outside of Chicago where it's been cloudy and rainy and we're going through about a 20-degree drop. So again, this is a great way to check in. And so if I was a teacher and I asked my students to do this, I would definitely point out some of the good ones. But if I notice that somebody maybe put up that, for example, I thought someone's day was long. As a teacher, I might want to go check in with that student either before they go home or if it's in the morning, and just kind of like go over there and say, hey, you okay? How's it going? Like, do you have any questions about what we did? But yeah, so, that might help eliminate some discussion, some potential, behaviors that boil over at home or behaviors in school that throughout the day, if you start the day like this with your students. And even if you're, not comfortable with a shout it out, I've always found that a good smile when students walk in, right? You can never underestimate that. So thank you for all these responses. In a blizzard, oh my goodness. Beautiful weather in New Zealand. Oh, fabulous. You're joining us from New Zealand. All right. Well, thank you so much for your submission. So that's a great little activity to get started. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And what's going to happen is it's going to say that the activity has ended. But if you keep that web page up, we're going to have more opportunities for you to participate. So you can keep that there. You don't need to change or enter in a code again as we go back to it. And this activity kind of leans into self-awareness. That's the first area that I'm going to cover from social and emotional learning. So self-awareness,
Hey,
which
Allison.
is defined. Yeah.
Allison, before you move on, Jade just asked if she can get rid of inappropriate responses on that shout it out. So if we want to jump back to that page real quick and just show how we can do that.
Absolutely. Yes, you can definitely get rid of the inappropriate responses. And so what I can do is click and drag, and there's a little trash can in the top left-hand corner that I can move it to right here. Click, drag, and then it's erased. So all you have to do is click and drag it up to this trash can at the top. So really quick to do. And if you want to make a note of who said the inappropriate comments, again, so if I'm clicking on this one, I like that word, I can go look in my comments here and see who made that comment so that I can address that later. And then there's more tips. You can also quickly throw up a screen shade if you notice something is up there as well, and that will hide the comment. You can get rid of it and then go back and deal with the students as well. Thank you. That was a great question. So moving on to then the self-awareness part of it. So Castle identifies self-awareness as the ability to accurately recognize one's own emotions, thoughts, and values, and then how they influence the behavior. And this talks about also our growth mindset, which we hear more in schools as well. So how we can see ourselves and how we can see our weaknesses and make them into strengths. And then the self-efficacy as well. So building our own feelings and then being able to relate to others, and we kind of move into relating to other people's feelings. And we want to make sure that we help students set their own goals and help them achieve. And they have to kind of be self-aware in order to do that, right? You know what you're good at, you know what you're bad at. Or not bad, but you have your areas of growth and improvement. My son, one of the things that he does is he does goal setting at the beginning of new units, and I think that that's fantastic. And he knows that he has to do, better at some things than others. And we constantly talk about the things that we need to be better at because that's okay. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, right? So we model those kind of behaviors for our students. Now, some of the tools that we can use for maybe our younger elementary students, might be interested to see this little dice here. This is called a widget, and it's within Smart Notebook. So in order to kind of recognize feelings and also respecting or how to express those feelings respectfully, I added little pictures into this dice. And I can tap on the dice, so if I have an interactive board at the front, I can have my students come up and just tap it with their finger. That's going to come upon an image here. And the images that I've added have different emotions, that are representing different emotions that are on here. So like this little girl, what kind of emotion do you think she's expressing? And she looks like she's excited to me, or she's happy. And so you would ask students, so if she's happy, how does she express that? What's the appropriate way to express that? And then you have conversations, what makes us happy? And this is put right into Smart Notebook. And if you're curious on how to add those widgets in, on this presentation, I have these little gears at the bottom here, and these little gears will link you to a page within within this file that have directions on how you can make all of these Smart Learning Suite tools that I'm discussing on here. So this is kind of like your help gear, right? And then it clicks you back. So there are directions on how to make this. And then a few more connections that perhaps you could use to incorporate self-awareness into your classroom in more of a curriculum matter, because sometimes, the days get long and it's hard to spend more time on something else, right? We've got high demands. So one of the ways that you can include some self-awareness, or even to talk about feelings, when you're studying synonyms and antonyms in school, or if you're working on writing skills where you want students to find synonyms and antonyms, have them do a synonym or antonym for a certain type of emotion, like nervous. So what are some other words that can mean nervous? How do we express those feelings? If you use the Daily 5 in your classroom or any other sort of designated ELA block, English Language Arts block, you could spend maybe one day or have your students spend one day in their journals talking about their week, maybe how their goal setting has gone, if they have anything that they want to achieve next week, and just have them reflect in their writing skills. So now you're incorporating a little bit more of this self-awareness and social emotional learning, but it's not taking away from your daily English language arts time, right? It's integrated within. So it's like little things like that. And then if you teach like history or science skills, or even you're reading a novel for your higher level students like middle school and high school, you could discuss characters from historical fiction in relation to their emotions. So for example, if you were studying the American Revolution and you have Paul Revere, how did Paul Revere feel on his ride? What would you have felt in that situation? How would your emotions, how would your actions portray those emotions? And then how would that make you feel to be the one that notified everyone that the British were coming? So talking about those important people within our history or within novels and their emotions to show students that there are connections. So these little tweaks, again, that we bring in to our curriculum. And also strengths and weaknesses, and then triumphs and hardships. So I have another shout it out activity that I will start. This shout it out activity has categories. So if you're still on that class lab, and I'll make it bigger again, so in case you need it, you're going to see that there's 2 categories that you can submit. And right here, I have triumph and hardship. So my thought is that in this situation, maybe you could think of what has been one of your greatest triumphs as an educator, and what has been your greatest hardship as an educator. So I always find the triumphs are so much easier and so rewarding. I mean, I can tell stories of students that have come up and just touched my heart. But hardships are also kind of easier. And there's always hard things. For me, being a teacher, it was always hard to manage my time. So I always had to watch about managing my time. And so you can throw up here ideas and how triumphs and hardships for you in teaching. And then in your classroom, you can talk about triumphs and hardships with those historical figures and those literature figures, such as like any person that you're studying in a book, in a novel study like in high school, and maybe even science, and what are some things that you find are easy and hard in science. Yeah, building relationships when you teach a lot of students is really hard. Engaging all students is definitely a struggle too. Implementing technology and creating a mag campus. Awesome. I love that triumph when students get it, the aha. Those aha moments are pretty awesome. When you see that light bulb go off with students, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I got into education, was to see that. And having patience, perseverance. These are some great things. Yep, old technology can be a hardship for sure. Taking care of self, excellent. Yeah, that's hard, right? We have to like take care of ourselves. As I sit here, as I've just gotten over a cold, right? Learning how to manage my time. Disruptive students. Yeah, we've always got those, right? I love this one, getting a smart board. Yep, that is a triumph. I would agree. That's an awesome thing. Great. So as you can see, they continue to pop up here, and I'll end the activity in a moment. But again, kind of reinforce over here on the side panel, the display names are turned off, so you can't see who's saying what here. So to kind of keep it anonymous, I could open it up. I can drag and drop within here too. So I could take and say, okay, well, this hardship of setting boundaries, you know what? I'm going to make it into a triumph, and I can sort them. And you can also sort them in your class. You have a board up front. You can do one of these activities, these shouted out activities, and have students sort them. So how are we going to make a hardship into a triumph, and kind of things like that. And you could sort them by characters and things to bring students in whole groups from this individual activity. So great responses. I'm going to press end. And I'm going to move on into our next activity, our next section.